If you take H2 Math, have you ever wondered how the general formula of a GP is actually being derived? Now over here, I'm going to use this opportunity to explain to you and build intuition. Because in H2 Math, the most important thing is not memorizing the formulas, it's understanding how the formulas are actually being derived. And that's how you are actually able to go and tackle standard exam questions using the formulas that you already know. So we all know that the general term of a GP is Tn equals to T1 times R, where R is the constant ratio to the power of n minus 1. But how was this actually being derived? I'm going to show you a very classic example over here now, using this simple GP on the screen over here. So let's say this is 2, right? Then here will be 6, here will be 18, and here will be 54, right? And then this one goes on and on and on and on. And we can see that there is a constant ratio of times 3, times 3, and times 3 over here, right? And of course, this will carry on all the way until non-stop. And we know that a sequence, not only just a GP, right? Whereby GP is a more specific example of a sequence, but any sequence is all indexed. That means we can call this term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, right? Each of the term has a specific value, and because each term is related to the previous term by a constant multiple, and not a constant difference, but a constant multiple, this constitutes it to be a GP, because this is the characteristic of a GP. Now, if you were to write it out, T1 is basically 2, right? But I can write it as 2 times 0 times 3, right? I have 2 multiplied by 0 times or 3, in other words. Now for the second term, this is 6. But I can write this out as 2 times 1 times of 3, right? And then, or rather I will just write it as 0 times 3, right? And then for T3 over here, I'll have 18, which is just 2 times 3 times 3, right? I times 3, then I times 3 again, of which this one can be written as 3 squared, right? And then this can be written as 3 to the power 1. And then this is just 3 to the power 0. Right, and then T4 would be 54, which is just 2 times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 to the power of 3, right? Because I multiply 3 to itself 3 times to get that. Now we can see that this pattern carries on and on and on and on until we reach this thing called the nth term, which is our general term. And we can see that every term is all dependent on the first term of the sequence, because we start from the first term and then we multiply the constant ratio to it to get forward to where we want to get to. So Tn will therefore be dependent on the first term, which is 2, right? And then this is T1 essentially. And we see that every single term is also dependent on the constant ratio. So in this case, the constant ratio is 3. But the only difference is the power, right? Where here's power 0, here's power 1, here's power 2, here's power 3. But there's a link, because when the term is 1, I multiply 3 0 times, right? When the term is 2, I multiply 3 1 time. When the term here is 3, I multiply 3 2 times, therefore there's a square over there. And when the term here is 4, I multiply 3 3 times to itself, and that's how I get cube, right? So if it's the n term, you will expect here to be n minus 1 times, right? It's always 1 less. And therefore, this is the general term of this GP, but if we were to generalize it, you'll write it as Tn equals to the first term times the constant ratio n minus 1, whereby every single term is dependent on T1, right? Every term starts here, starts from T1, and it multiplies forward by the common ratio, how many times? N minus 1 times, alright? 1 times lesser than the current index that it is on. And that is how we actually remember the general term of the GP. So to all JC students who are still watching this, it's very important you build intuition in H2 Math to ace your exams. And if you are still struggling with sequences or series, and if you want to relearn the whole entire chapter, I filmed the whole sequences and series course inside my online learning portal called the Library of AL Math Academy, where you can learn the whole chapter again, just like this, in explanations that are clear, as well as get access to my exam questions from all JCs across Singapore, consolidated over many years. I'll come with video answers of mine. So if you want more information on that, just WhatsApp this number here. I'll send you everything, as well as an info kit and a demo link to show you how the portal actually looks like. And I look forward to seeing you all WhatsApp.